Welcome back. I'm talking to Gary Heseltine, who has just retired as a police detective now and is also a UFO researcher. Now, your sort of baby is Rendlesham Forest. You're the main case that you are probably one of the world's leading experts on, which took place in 1980.
Yep.
Are there any new developments, Gary?
Well, there are things that what you've got to appreciate is that when I was in the police, I'm doing my research over and above time as a detective, home life, etc., and the police cases. Now, I've tried to be clear and transparent all the way along and say, you know, if there's any major development, I'll let you know. What I can say is that now I have retired, this next 12 months there will be much greater emphasis on me trying to get directors, producers, production companies involved. But part of that process has been getting the script to a level where I think it's ready to go in a professional sense. Now, along that way, along that journey over the last 5 years, is it's been reviewed by various script writers and things like that. So it has had professional reviews, and they would give advice and whatever. And in the end, I've now got to a stage now where it's pretty much all the advice that I'm getting back now is saying this is pretty much ready to go. And actually we've got two versions now. We've now got a theatrical cinema version, which is more character based, and you develop the characters because you essentially screen and film is a slightly different media to a documentary. Right. So what we now have is effectively a blow-by-blow account based on my 5 years of research, which is what we would call a docudrama, ready to go for a TV 3 or 4 part series, and now a theatrical version, which is more character driven, right, where you can't cover all of the same material for the sake of a film. So some things have come out, but essentially the main aspects are in, but you develop the characters more. Now that's at the stage where I now believe that, along with a development that came out of the Liverpool conference in 2012, a guy called Dave Taylor approached me, who turned out to be a graphic artist, right, and he has worked for all the top comics. He had a book out last year in the New York Times bestseller list, which was a Batman collaboration book, and he's a brilliant sketch writer, sketch artist. Now he approached me at the conference and said, you know, can I get involved? And I said, well, can you storyboard? Because I've been looking to have my script storyboarded, right, for as an asset, so when you do pitch towards a production company, that you could visualize it and say, look, here's some of the key sequences, storyboarded. And he said, yeah, I could do that for you. So that's something that we are currently working on. And this is a major development because hopefully around the end of April, May, we will be in a position where we've got some of these key sequences storyboarded. So we can go into a presentation now with some storyboard visuals, where we can go with the script, two different versions, theatrical and docudrama TV version, and we can also go in with a business proposal, right, because essentially we're quite lucky with Rendlesham that the airbase is still there, albeit it's Bentwaters Park. So you can film it on site. So you can film it on site. Right. So the infrastructure is still there. The airbase is still there. The forest is still there. The farmers' field is still there. So in a sense, in terms of costs, all of those things are covered. So you don't need to have a huge budget to make this properly. Right.
So this is a blockbuster Hollywood type film about Britain's most famous UFO case, which took place in 1980, Rendlesham Forest. So, and a lot of the characters will be American, which is another sort of selling point if you're going to try and sell it to an American market.
Yeah, you would have thought that in terms of funding, that the fact that it's an American cast effectively on British soil, it would be a plus point.
But just to touch on the funding, Gary, you're sort of going, if cap in hand, if you like, to production people, Hollywood, whatever. Have you got an approximate cost of how much it would cost to produce? Are you talking 4 million? Are you talking 10 million? Have you got a figure? I mean, a typical, medium-ish budget film, you're talking £5 million, aren't you? But if you could get that budget, you don't necessarily have to appeal to TV and film people. You could just appeal to someone who's got a spare £5 million in their pocket and then commission the production people yourself.
Well, it'd be nice if there's a rich benefactor who goes, yes, I want to see this.
Have you got a figure?
No. Well, if you remember last year, I did do a presentation to a small production company, and they basically loved it. But I think the bottom line was it was a bit out of their range. They weren't able to get the finance together, but one of the things that they were quoting was between £5 and £10 million.
Right.
And I kind of think that that's the kind of budget you are looking at.
Well, you never know who's watching the show, Gary, so for anyone who's got a spare £5 to £10 million who wants to put it into making what could be one of the best films to come out of Britain about a true story, a phenomenal story, you never know.
Well, what I would say on that is that, you know, it'd be nice if there were these.
Then you're in control. Then you see.
Well,
you're not.
Alas, I don't think it'll be
twiddling
simple
with the script.
No, absolutely. But the bottom line is that I've said all along that it's not about making loads of money for me. It's about getting the truth out there. Now, you do have this problem that when you go to production companies and finance, whatever, you end up basically you will have to sell the script and then they can maim it, which is usually what happens. Now, one of the ways that we're trying to do it is that over the years I've met fair few people who do have media links. Now, for example, Dave Taylor, without naming his sources, there's obviously quite a tie-up between comics being made into feature films, and there still are. So he knows people within the media industry, film and TV. So it may well be that the best way we can move this forward is by putting the script to various people, and I know he is promoting it now, and he has got some people interested in it, and basically we will cut through so many layers if we can get to somebody who is like head of TV that he may know, who reads it and goes, this is great, we can go down the docudrama side, and I'll put you in touch with people there. It may well be that we know certain actors, and if you can get to a prominent actor and an actress, a famous actor says, I like this, I want to get involved, he will know the people to go to. So that's the kind of route that we go into. But what I'm saying is that this year will be, from my point of view, a major emphasis where I now go out actively seeking to get this made into a film.
I still think you might get the break from a private individual. For example, George Harrison, he funded films just because he believed in and then he left them alone. You know,
well, you have this kind of Robbie Williams kind of scenario that he turns up at UFO conferences a few years ago, things like that. But to my mind, if that happens, great. Some people have got lots of money out there, and certainly what I would say is that this is going to be the most famous UFO case probably ever to hit the screen, and we have an opportunity to do it right, and it'll be based on truth. If I can be in anywhere in that process, then that's what I'm going to try to guarantee. Now, it's not. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, and I'm not saying there probably won't be script changes. But what I'm saying is that essentially this story is going to get it out unmangled, and it's such a good story that it is, whether I'm involved or not, it is going to be made into a feature film. But we do have an opportunity now that if we can attract the right investor, director, whatever, there's a real chance for Hollywood or for British film industry to do something historic by telling the best story in the best way and telling it as it really was.
Have you got a particular actor in mind who you'd want to play Holt? Because he's not the central character but a major character.
Well, he essentially Holt has to be the major character along with one or two others, for the simple reason is that this is effectively a story which at the heart of it has been endorsed, and he put his name to the Holt Memorandum, which I believe is Britain's most famous UFO document and one of the world's most famous UFO documents, because somebody of his rank, the deputy base commander of a nuclear facility, which we know it was, is saying that I saw UFOs myself and he describes that in the third paragraph, and in the first two paragraphs he describes that of a landed craft.
Sure.
Well, that document is priceless. We don't either have that in Roswell.
No.
In the same way, and nobody disputes the fact that that's a real document. And one of the beauties, and it's often lost, is the fact that Rendlesham Forest should have never have come out. Holt tried to get it pulled when he knew it was coming out, because he knew his life would never be the same.
Do you know how old Holt was in 1980?
Off top of my head, I would think he would be in his late 30s, early 40s.
Late 30s, right. Maybe Tom Hanks or someone like that.
Well, in the end, the bottom line is you can get you know, you're looking for the story to be treated by the production company director as serious. This is not going to be an Independence Day, because I wouldn't get involved in that kind of process. This has got to be telling it how it was, and the real men's experiences, and the fact that people's lives have been shattered often afterwards, and people still have all these questions that have never been resolved. And whilst we don't know 100% of what occurred, because it is complicated, we probably know about 70% of what's occurred. And if you put those 70 jigsaw pieces together in a 100-piece jigsaw, you'd end up with ET.
Right. All right, and Gary. Well, you collect UFO cases from police officers. Over the last 2.5 years, I've been doing the same, not from police officers, but from the general public. I've got a reporting mechanism, and I've eventually gotten round to actually studying. I've got about 350 reports in total, and I've been...
Yeah, I get copies of them.
I've been whittling them down, and I've interviewed quite a lot.
There are some very good cases in there.
Yeah. Now, I would say I've got maybe around about 40 in total of people who've seen these flying triangles, usually black. They're usually completely silent. People often see them at very close range. And they seem to come in two different sizes. Sort of the size of a football field, which is people find difficult to believe, but you'd be amazed how many people report this. And this sort of 30 to 40 foot silent flying triangle. So one reason why I've come here today is to pick Gary's brains, because we're going to do another interview after this, just to get a flavour for some of your flying triangle cases, and also the other thing that people report bizarrely is spherical orbs. Sometimes in the day they're seen as metallic, reflective orbs that
sometimes translucent,
that are often intelligently controlled and change direction, so they're clearly not sort of balloons and that kind of thing.
I've seen one myself.
Right.
And I'll talk you.
Okay. So could you just give us a general comment on the black triangle phenomenon, Gary? Just an overview of it in your own eyes, without me actually putting words in your mouth, from your own research.
When I look at the cases on the database, of which now we're looking at, and I'm just doing the 10th report based on last year's research. When I look at those cases, we're looking at now over 440 cases, going back to 1901. What I would say is that the majority of sightings break down into classic shapes, sometimes saucer, sometimes cylindrical, sometimes just a bright white light, sometimes orb, sometimes triangle. Now, there is certainly, since the, I should say from 1980 onwards, more police sightings coming in with triangular. And I will certainly highlight some police cases that have come in of objects that are the size of 3 football fields, triangular, low to the ground, no noise, that have been witnessed by multiple police officers that are on the database. So the certainly the triangular platform has been around probably since about 1980.
Yeah, I would concur with that, because I think the earliest triangle that I've got is 76, and I think that was in Devon. But certainly, I think I was speaking to Dave Hodrian, and he was saying that, you know, the amount of saucer sightings seems to have decreased, but the triangle sightings have increased. Now, a lot of people put forward the argument that triangles, they're all military secret craft. Give me a comment on that.
Well, I suppose in theory you could say that they could be, and ultimately we don't know for certain. But what I would say to that is, let's look at the flight characteristics. And the flight characteristics of something that we're saying is built, huge dimensions. Say, you know, if the case 1 football field size, like in the case that I'm thinking of, 3 football field size. This is a huge aerial platform. Now, how does it move? Does it make any noise? Well, invariably, most UFO sightings of this kind of craft come back no noise whatsoever. Even at low altitude, 50 feet, 100 feet, no noise whatsoever. But you're talking about a huge dimensions of a craft. So how could that be? The objects are often seen to make instant acceleration, instant stop, to make right angle turns and things like that. Well, those kind of flight characteristics just can't be borne by any stealth weapon that's an aircraft
that's been disclosed so far.
No, I agree, and that's why I say in the end we can't be certain. But what you've got to think of is, well, what country could produce a football field size object with those kind of flight characteristics? The only one you could realistically say is probably America, with its money and finances. And then you think, well, why is it flying over Norfolk in the UK and Middlesex? You know, why is it flying over football fields so that the police officers that witness it can say, well, it's the size of 3 football fields? How do you know that? Because it was over 3 football fields and that low.
So do you have have you got enough of those cases to say where they predominantly occur, or
I haven't delved in a geographical, regional basis to do that, but that's something that I will have more time to do. I mean, what I was going to say to you anyway is, with regards to your sightings, I want to include those sightings in the magazine, if I may, because you've been copying me into them, and obviously I don't want to tread on your toes where you're doing documentaries and things like that, but you know, if we get a sighting report in and it's good, then we should be able to put it in, and maybe not put the name in or whatever, but essentially the stories are there and the follow-up can happen later. Because there will be a section on UK sightings, you see, and this is a ready source.
Over the last, as I say, 2.5 years, I've had about 350 reports, and of that I've got a database now of around about 160, because I've discarded I discard over half, actually, because they're generally, you can Chinese lanterns, the usual explicable things, which I will go into in my upcoming talk, because I'm doing a full.
But some of them have got so much information, and they say describing an object will suddenly rise vertically into the sky, or drop vertically to the ground, or make a right angle turn, or is zigzagging around the sky. Well, we know from our research over the years is that planes can't do that. There's nothing mankind, as far as we're aware, can do that kind of technology, those kind of flight characteristics. So we think that they're genuine ET, and until somebody tells us otherwise, I think that is the case.
Okay. I am looking also into, which again, I'm sort of promoting my upcoming tour, speaking tour, which all of my sort of analysis of 2.5 years of UFO reports will be in my upcoming talks, and I am looking at different alleged propulsion systems other than the ones that are currently known about, ones that have possibly been secretized, which might explain some characteristics, and I've got a little project going, which I'll tell you about after this interview. But we're probably going to discuss a couple of specific cases, triangle, which will be included in my upcoming tour. But thanks for speaking to us today, Gary, and good luck with the UFO Truth Magazine. We'll be promoting it on Richplanet TV.
I hope so.
I'll promise on camera that I'll give you 1,000 words every 2 months.
Thank you very much. You've got it on camera.
So it just remains for me to say, believe none of what you hear and only half of what you see. I'm Richard D. Hall. Good night.